Phase 2 Town Hall. Leading us today in this Town Hall workshop is a team of professionals who specialize in consensus building through a process of dialogue, interchange, and listening. MIG is a community of designers, planners, engineers, scientists, and storytellers engaging, involving, and acting with people in a creative problem-solving way. MIG works with public and private clients throughout the country on creative problem-solving from strategic planning through construction. Joining us today from MIG are Rick Barrett, CJ Davis, and Fernanda Suarez. Rick is a principal. Yes. You know, I was going to sell tomatoes outside, but the applause is better. Okay. Rick is the principal and accomplished urban planner. CJ is a leader in MIG's graphics and visualization studio, bringing our creative solutions to reality. Fernanda works on a variety of landscape and planning projects with Rick and CJ throughout California. Parenthetically, I attended a series of town hall workshops to inform a collective vision for the new Hollywood Burbank Airport, which was led by MIG President and CEO Daniel Iacofano. Did I say that right? Isofano, and it was most effective. So we're looking for great things today, so I'm going to turn it over to Rick.
Thank you, Ron. Again, my name is Rick Barrett with MIG, and above me is the agenda. So I'm just going to go through a little overview of what to expect today. So as you look at the agenda, we're on item 3, which is the agenda and agenda overview and objectives. And then Ron will come back up here and talk about fellowship hall background information for a few minutes. Ron will continue to talk about the fellowship hall orientation, recent successes, past studies, previous survey results. And then we want to quickly get into item 6, which is the visioning exercise, which will last for a total of 90 minutes. So let me talk about that in particular. So at each table, there is a flip chart and markers. And some of the flip charts around the perimeter have markers behind them. The easels in the middle, the 5 tables in the middle, we didn't put the flip charts up yet because they would obstruct the view of the PowerPoint and just get in the way. And each of those 5 easels have a Sharpie marker. So during the visioning session, the table discussion under 6, the first bullet under number 6, we're going to ask each table to discuss amongst yourselves those 5 topics down below, which I'll cover in a minute. During that discussion, we would like each table to nominate somebody to take notes on the flip chart. We'll give you about 8 minutes or so per bullet. 8 times 5 is 40, allows a little extra time. I'll give you prompts during that table discussion for 60 minutes. Okay, if you haven't moved on, please move on to the next item for discussion. CJ, Fernanda, and I will be roaming, and if you have questions during the tabletop discussion amongst yourselves, just raise your hand and we'll come over. So after the completion of the tabletop exercise, when you go through those 5 items under item 6 on the agenda, we're going to ask that one person from each table come up to the left side of the room, my left, and in about 2 to 3 minutes, present your recommendations, findings, opinions. During that time, CJ will be recording your notes where Fernanda is standing on that big, what we call the wall graphic paper. So that part's going to move quickly. So again, 60 minutes for the sit-down table exercise, and then for the report back, that'll take 30 minutes total. So we'll need to move pretty quickly, 2 to 3 minutes per table for the report back, and then we'll wrap up and move into next steps. Talk about next steps, and we'll be out of here by 2:30. We'll be out of here by. And then, in addition, at each table, there is a sign-in sheet. If you don't mind signing in with the appropriate information, there's a sign-in sheet so we can stay in touch with you. There's also name tags at each table, and there's an agenda at each table for your reference. I think that is it. So let me just talk about the questions under item 6. So the things we want to cover today before Ron comes back up for item 4, the bulk of this discussion is really the tabletop exercise under number 6. So the first item, additional youth programs. This is all about Fellowship Hall, which Ron will talk about in a minute. So we're going to ask you to discuss amongst yourselves providing additional youth programs. Item 2, question mark, should we have additional commemorations and banquets? How about cultural events, including conferences, plays, music programs for item 3? And then item 4, I know is an important topic for all of us, is opening up Fellowship Hall to revenue-producing events unrelated to the church and to non-congregational members. That's a question for you all to discuss amongst yourselves. And then finally, the final item, the 5th bullet here, is consideration of potential courtyard improvements on the west side of the building that instead of possibly taking out the landscaping, I think, Ron, you could talk about that a little bit, but maybe extending that feeling of a courtyard to the front of the building. And that's it for the description of the visioning exercise. So, Ron, if you can come back up and maybe cover items 4 and 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Item 4 is Fellowship Hall background information. Pre-pandemic, we engaged an architectural firm, Zaki and Wu Architects, to design what would be what we're calling Phase 1 and Phase 2. You're sitting in Phase 2. We presented this at the last annual banquet that was held in this room and got a pretty positive response from almost everyone there. Subsequently, a master site plan was produced by a firm called Doma Studio that looked at the overall parking situation on the east side, the north side, and the west side, as well as some thoughts about the area just outside that wall in the back opposite me, which is the green space along Cahuenga Boulevard, and how we might utilize that. And then a third firm, RDC, produced a Fellowship Master Concept Plan, Fellowship Hall Master Concept Plan, where new options were explored, including that courtyard, access from that courtyard through the high school room into the east, what we call courtyard here, conversion of the choir room into a young adults room with a coffee bar, conversion of the high school room into a new entry and choir room, addition of a canopy, access for banquets and so forth off the east side. So whether we use it for a church function or whether we utilize the room for another organization to use this room, they wouldn't have to come on the rest of the church property. They could come directly in here. Through the pandemic, work was ongoing in the church. I think you're all aware of it, so I'll speed through this. You know, the courtyards were designed and developed. The dome was lit. Signage was brought into the church. Organ bells were put in place. Cornerstones were collected and put in mounts, and they're out on the entry. The caretaker's apartment was redesigned and reconstructed. The senior pastor's office was redone. And we did remedial repairs following the flooding that occurred after the picnic. And then we did a survey, which I think you're all aware of. We issued the survey and collected survey results and have those results. We've distributed those results as well, and so forth. So, with phase 1 now completed, with exception of the punch list that will take us a while to get through, we have a new entry vestibule and casework. We have a new ADA compliant enlarged men's room. We have a new ADA compliant women's room with a lounge. And we have our punch list and are getting ready to proceed with the remedies, the items on the punch list. So that brings you up to date. For anyone that wants to see, I have pictures here with me of the 3 steps that we took along the way to get to where we are today. And that brings us to today. So I think I'll turn it back to you, Rick. I think I picked up some time.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, so we're up to quickly moving here. This is great. We're ahead of schedule. So item 6, as we're cleaning up from that fantastic lunch, we're going to ask that each table start a discussion about those 5 topic areas listed below the 5 bullets under item 6. Again, I'll provide prompts during the next 1 hour for you all to consider, moving on. And if you want to move faster, that's totally fine too. And again, most, importantly, if you have questions for us individually during the discussion, just raise your hand and one of us, CJ, Fernanda, and I will come by. Fernanda, if you want to set up the flip charts on the middle 5 tables. And I think with that, we're ready to go. So we'll check in again in about 8 to 10 minutes. Just looking at the time. And we want to be through with the tabletop discussion around 1:45, allowing for a little bit more, 30 minutes for the report back, and 15 minutes for a few minutes for the summary of the workshop and the next steps. So with that, I'll hand it over to everybody, and thank you very much. Say that again.
Thursday, Thanksgiving dinner, banquet, and weddings. Community events such as Feeding Ministries, Blood Drive, Contemporary Worship Night, Youth Rally, Movie Night, Sleepover, outdoor celebrations with organizations like worship nights with other churches or groups. Armenian patriotic events. And then weddings, but no smoking on the premises, also no alcohol except for wine. Young professionals, a coffee shop, a barbecue grill, cobbler night, and art classes and painting. Questions, comments? That was table 1.
Thank you, Nancy. And Ryan from table 2. Okay, table 2, Ryan, take it away.
Okay, this works. Everybody hear me? Okay, the first one, we had the additional youth programs. We said table tennis, pickleball, VBS, Harvard Festival, sports tournaments. The second one, for the commemorations and banquets, we said weddings, memorial service and luncheon, missions, Mother's Day, AMA, AEUNA, pastoral conferences, graduations, rally Sunday, and breakfast. For cultural, we focused on plays, musicals, concerts, Armenian dance classes, arts and crafts, Armenian cooking, Armenian festival, essentially Armenian cultural and enrichment programs. Number 4, open facility, control with contracts, staff, and paid monitoring, any security, for anything that's from the outside. Hosting meetings, seminars, Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, and Mardinian events. And for the courtyard, expand with the wall, make it an inviting space, a garden entry to the UACC campus versus just the parking lot near the trash cans, a chapel gazebo opportunity area or outdoors for outdoor services, storage areas, small for the round tables and chairs we'll have here, youth adult gathering space, also pickleball location, might be nice outside, UACC picnic food area, and a safe, protected place for the youth and for all.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, table 3. They've got 10 pages of notes, so brace yourself. Okay, table 3, take it away.
For starters, we wanted to also focus on youth, accommodating the wild children, sports tournaments, movie nights, trivia nights, game nights, all of the sports that people have mentioned. job.
Yes. Also, we have some really exciting new ideas too. We want to do a flea market here, so people can bring any items that they have or they want to sell. Fashion pop-ups, international night markets where people can represent different cultures and foods. There can be dancing. It can be kind of late into the night and really fun.
We also had an idea of having Christian concerts or speakers, a job fair, Christian business networking events.
Cooking classes.
Yeah, cooking classes, dance classes, like people said. Like our Zumba ministry could be in here, our Muffins and Mugs, Bros and Joes, United Women, all missions, volunteering events, like bake sales, homeless care packs or food packs.
Trampolines, worship nights. Okay, I'm just gonna read this. Snow machine, ice sculpting, paint and sip, roller skating, infrared sauna, Christian therapy. I didn't say that. A free gym, so like free weights, treadmill, stairmaster, rower.
Recording studio,
for podcast.
a place for all Christian influencers to come and record videos and content.
Yup, like a Christian playhouse.
And for the courtyard, we had an idea of creating a prayer garden, like an outdoor prayer space with stone benches and flowers and hotchkiss, and also to make it like an enclosed, almost like a work from home space where people from the church community could come and do work out there together.
Love that one. Let's see, anything else we missed here? Definitely some good stuff.
I think that's all.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So first of all, if you hear things that we came up with that you've already heard, those people stole the ideas from us. Okay, that was our idea. So, first let me just put this overarching feeling that no matter what, the youth program should always take priority over anything that we're proposing. So for example, if there's an event on a Saturday here that the hall's going to use, but it requires to be set up on Friday, there has to be a really good alternative for the youth program, for GU, or whatever future programs we have, so they don't get iced out of using this room or have an alternative place to meet. So just want to put that over everything that we're doing. Okay, so as far as youth programs, it's all the usual suspects, right? We're talking about basketball, volleyball, indoor soccer. Indoor soccer is a really big thing right now. Woo! And the kids love it. Exercise classes, tournaments with other churches like we used to have when we were kids. Truthfully, we'd come here and we'd fight, but we were all friends afterwards. It was really a good time. And that's how we all got to know each other, not just from the other evangelical churches, but also with the Lusaborchakan and the prelacy churches, okay? Obviously, this is a great hall for VBS. Music classes, Armenian classes for youth. Indoor movie nights, again, another idea someone took from us. Harvest Festival, Generations United, sleepovers, ping pong, pickleball, badminton, wiffle ball. There's all kinds of things that could be done. If you can be able to bounce a ball against the wall, if it hits the ceiling, we gotta make sure that it's not gonna damage something. What I mean by that is that we want the kids to be able to play hard here and not worry about if an event on Saturday night, we're gonna be embarrassed about, oh, we can't have something here because the wall looks bad or something. This is a kids' room, okay? That's what it's about. A little late on the help, but I'll take it. Yeah, I know. Okay, so then when it comes to commemorations and banquets, we're talking about all the things, Hokey Joshes, banquets, missions lunches, Mother's Day. We put Father's Day there, but there's never a celebration for fathers, let's face it, okay? coffee hours and youth banquets. For cultural events, cooking classes, music concerts. Hey, I mean, we don't have to do it just because we did it, but we used to have plays up here on stage, and we all hated rehearsing, and we all hated doing it, but it was a lot of fun in the end, and we look back on it with a lot of pleasure now. So that would be great, you know, plays with the youth. Zumba, interchurch gatherings too, so it doesn't just have to be our church, we can be with other churches too. And then Armenian dance instruction also. Okay, then as far as renting to third parties, we were talking about community events, maybe voting, council discussions, CPR classes, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, but I know they can flip now, right? You can put girls and Boy Scouts. And then blood drives or adult daycare would be an opportunity too. And then finally, for the courtyard, everyone's got the idea of let's enclose it. Enclose the grass area, put artificial turf, so we don't have to worry about, oh, it's muddy, I'm gonna get dirty, this, that. Barbecues, picnics, maybe some shaded area through a sail or something like that, a sail that would provide shade. And then have, use the hidden assets that we have all over this place. The unutilized classrooms for, maybe it's preschool, and if we needed to, provide access to the courtyard from maybe one of those classrooms over there too. So that covers Table 5. I want to thank everybody at Table 5. Shout out to Table 5 and my wife for writing so neatly.
Okay, thank you very much. Table 6.
Okay, our transcriber was Catherine, but she kind of bailed on us, so I will do my best. Our table wanted to focus on income-producing activities for the church. We believe that when this church was founded, our founding fathers of UACC built a multi-purpose social hall. They thought to put these basketball hoops that come down, and now in 2023 we have the technology that's available for chandeliers to come down, for padding to come down, up and off, and all that. So we wanted to focus on making this a multi-use space. Another thing that our founding fathers and mothers did was they built a professional stage, which to me indicates that they had the foresight that there would be cultural, social, theater, musical events taking place here. We are located in an extremely geographically desirable location. We have ample parking. We are the fiduciaries of this church, and I believe that we would be wasting its potential if we just focused on making this a one-dimensional, one type of room. So, let's go. Income-producing activities, lectures, concerts, theater, conferences and retreats, memorial luncheons, wedding, engagement, showers, celebrations and receptions, dance classes. We think that it would be wise to, or it would be necessary to have an on-site manager to ensure that all the rules that we establish are followed and to make sure that security is a requirement for all events. Kitchen upgrade and renovation to accommodate outside catering. Okay, let's keep going. For UACC and non-UACC organizations, we talked about hosting athletic games for the youth. One of our challenges is that we don't have enough room for bleachers. Whenever we've hosted tournaments here, we've had people just sit around on the sidelines in the chairs that you guys are sitting on. I think that's a tremendous liability issue. I'm sure that if our general liability insurer knew that players have the risk of falling on the viewers and attendees, that would be an issue. One member on our table, or a couple members on our table actually, wanted to introduce an alternative to maybe have basketball hoops in the parking or in the courtyard, or an area for activities for kids with swings and slides. Another idea was to increase storage areas or renovate the rooms downstairs for storage. I think I already went through this one about how we have parking and the original vision of our church's founding fathers and mothers. We said renters and non-UACC organizations and individuals would have to carry event insurance in order to have events here. We also talked about the idea of serving alcohol here. I know that that's frowned upon or it's not permitted, but if these event holders had professional bartenders, we would be passing on the liability to the servers. Things would happen like that. Automatic chandeliers, just like the basketball hoops. And then this is like a dream goal, I guess, West Parking to make it multi-level, to have youth activities on one level and to have a parking with a solar carport on top. And that would allow us to preserve the social hall for events like social, cultural, and community. We talked about making it a luxury hall. The courtyard to put awnings and have more shaded areas to allow for outdoor events for profit, like weddings, showers, and receptions. And that's it from table 6.
Thank you, table 6. Okay, table 7, come on up.
Okay, I'll skip to the end. Any of you have seen the... Anybody know what I'm referring to? Skip to the end. Go home this afternoon, watch The Princess Bride, you'll get it. So we didn't come up with so much a list of activities that we wanted to see as a matter of prioritizing these activities. So number one, youth and social activities, sports, etc., should be the primary focus for the facility. Primary focus, emphasized. Friday night youth programs, or Saturday night youth programs, or Sunday night youth, whatever. Men's and women's programs, whether they be dancing, Zumba, etc. You guys pickleball guys, we're going to have quite a few torn ACLs, but okay, go for it. Some things that we're already having. So very much the intent was that we continue to use this room, this area, as it's been used in the past for support of existing church activities. VBS, the Harvest Festival, banquets, etc., etc., etc. Number two, yes, of course. Should we continue to have a commemoration or a banquet or something comparable, again, what we have in the past? We talked about improving the acoustics and AV in here. And again, some of the things we've had in the past, Monday, Thursday service, Mother's Day, annual banquet, etc., etc. I think everybody was intent on continuing those things. 3, yes, again, I don't know what the question is, but comparable to related church activities, outreach, AUNA services, other kinds of things. So now expanding beyond our church here, do we want to see activities for other organizations and things? Yes, very much so. We'll get down to the end here, what's the key point to all of these in a minute. Outside use, secondary, and consistent with the purpose and message of the church. Okay, so no, this isn't just another Armenian banquet hall. Okay, we have a nice facility. What is our purpose? Our purpose is to spread the word of God. And so if we're going to have an event here, that should be the overarching theme or thought behind that we're going to support those things. Oversight of the renting organization is important. Focus should be glorifying God, not raising funds. And then number 5, we said perhaps even number 5 becomes a slightly greater priority than number 4. Again, if the intent is to support this church and to grow this church. And then also, you know, dependent on the scope and cost, right? Which we've got some budgets from here to here based on some of the ideas that have been presented, which is wonderful. God is good, and whatever we want whatever he has in plan, in mind for us is going to happen. But I want to bring up to your attention, my little building committee explorers here, we have two very important long-term maintenance projects still to complete at this church. One of them is the roof, which requires about $100,000 ongoing maintenance. It's been many years. And the other is our north and west parking lots that are in need of a complete repaving. And that's several $100,000 worth of work. So this is the most important comment here. The focus should be on glorifying God. Okay, the focus should be on forwarding God's message, and that's what the use of this facility should be for first and foremost, with the emphasis, of course, on youth, young adults, people with families, and 45 plus, of course. So we had a wonderful event last night, and everybody, but it's the church body as a whole. That's what we want to see supported. Any questions or comments? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So at table 8, we wanted to keep it very concise. We want to discuss the major events that we think are important. As far as all the events that can be we want everything to be available. We want it to be available for every type of event. And especially youth, of course, youth being the front runner in all these events, we want to make sure that is promoted the most. But having said that, we want the space for all types of events. We do want it for revenue-generating events as well. We do like the space for weddings and all celebratory events, but having these restrictions and making sure that the courtyard is part of it so that when we do have these events, people are able to go out as they need and come in as they need as well, and to keep it a safe space for children. So that courtyard would be very important to having our social hall and all of the events that come along with it. I'm not going to go through everything, mentioning all the different types of events that everybody else has mentioned already, which we do agree with, needs to be used for every possible scenario. Next, we'll be talking about programs for members and non-members. And we do like the idea of opening up to non-members as well, especially all the other organizations, church organizations as well. Using the space for whatever it can be used for, which are many, as we've been hearing from everybody else. We do want to see restrictions in place for those other organizations, not to just be used in this limited space, but for whatever they think is needed, with restrictions again. We've highlighted that. The design should be appropriate for all activities, including sporting activities and everything else, because after all, it's a fellowship hall, it's a social hall, and we want to use it as such for all types of activities, including sporting events. So we would like to see the design incorporate all of that into it. We do see that there's a lack of storage space in this area currently, having lost that area to the bathrooms that we used to have for storage. So having something, either maybe some of the classrooms downstairs being used for storage, or some type of space here that we can convert to be able to hold all of these ping pong tables, football tables, tables and chairs, and everything else that we have going on. We want to see a space for that as well. We did touch on some of the other, having like security for the events. We do believe that that's a must for any event that's going on over here. We want to make sure that our space is kept nice, clean, safe for everybody. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, table 9 coming up.
Ours is very simple. We are in agreement with table 6.
I'm glad to see a common denominator amongst a lot of tables. To make the whole multi-purpose, and I've seen wedding receptions, anniversary celebrations, graduation, birthdays. Some of these we have to decide as a church, kind of put it to a vote. Do we allow wine? Do we allow champagne? Do we allow hard liquor? Once you decide that, then some of this could happen, and it could be income producing, but we have to live with, is it okay as a church to allow that? Once you decide that, then you can have those options open to you. Initiate Armenian dance lessons. In between attending this church in the 80s, the last 7 years we were in Cilicia Church, and one of the things we did that, we started a Armenian dance lessons for kids from 5-year-old to 13, 14-year-old. And the joy as a parent or grandparent you will receive is tremendous when you come in and see your kids dance in Armenian dances. It's a tremendous joy, and it's a pure income to the church, because the dance teacher will basically rent the hall, they have an insurance policy, they will teach the kids. And then, Bagwell, the opportunity is a marvelous fishing expedition for the parents when they come. The parents bring their kids, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old, they know they come to this church. It's an opportunity to catch them while they bring their kids here. We want probably 30, 40 members at Cilicia, because of simple that they're coming to church every week, they're coming to church and they say, oh, we never saw this church. And they started attending our church. Consider hall dividers for multiple events. I mean, this is a big hall, and if you want to have multiple events at the same time, we have to divide it in a soundproof way. And you can have 2, 4 events at the same time. But it has to be soundproof, and it has to be like you roll it, you open it and close. Armenian cooking lessons. A lot of us have kids marrying an Oda, Chinese, Japanese, they have no idea about Armenian cooking. But your son enjoys Armenian cooking, and your son wants Armenian cooking. So we have lots of elderly individuals who really know how to cook Armenian. Let's have Armenian cooking lessons for the others who are with us, or the new generation who has no idea about Armenian cooking. Genocide Memorial Khachkar outside, wherever we have some grasses. I think it behooves us to have. It's a very nice location. A Khachkar from Armenia is about, I brought it 2 years ago at Cilicia, $10,000, maybe it's 12,000 now. Airfaring to here, another 5,000, so 15. Then you build a nice memorial around it. You're looking at 25 to 40,000, something like that. One family can donate that. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 3 more to go. Table 12.
All right, hello everyone. Before we started discussing in our table, the question was, what would Jesus answer to these questions that we have? That's the most important thing that we have here. So I hope everyone agrees with that. So when it comes to questions like youth programs to include sport activities that will lead into God's word, / worship and fellowship Friday nights and during the week. We didn't go into the details like sport activities. I think we all heard about that. Any banquets, commemorations for church members only with no alcohol or smoking. Any events, conferences, and/or programs for Christian organizations only, including non-Armenians. The place should be open for any Christian-based organizations as well, including non-profits or for-profits. For courtyard, we just recommend having shades and umbrellas and chairs, tables for socializing times after the church as well. And as a table discussion, we're not in favor as far as having cultural events because this is a place where Jesus should be glorified, and there's plenty in the city where other people are seeking, they can find it. So this should be only for glorifying the Jesus' name. That's it.
Thank you. Table 13.
So we did not get into the weeds of the different activities, and I'm glad because it looks like we've had a lot of good people thinking about that. So our table looked at it from sort of what would the space be best used for, and then sort of prioritize that. And our table, which had I think a median age of around 70 years old, so we're the older constituency. They thought that we thought that the priority of use first should be the historical uses. But in particular the youth activities which have been laid out. Their thinking was that those are the recurring uses that are at the heart of the future of the church, driving the youth, developing the youth, I should say, and bringing them into the church. And so that was clearly the priority of the use. However, we also thought that the restoration should permit many of these other church and related organizations' uses that we've historically seen, and some which have been articulated that we haven't historically seen. But things such as, obviously the luncheons and banquets, but also, the dancing, potentially cooking, cultural events. We thought that the stage should absolutely be part of that design, because that's an important component. I think Mike said we used to do plays all the time, we used to do concerts. Those were all things that should still be part of it. But we felt very strongly on our table that the restoration should be what I would call a humble restoration. We felt it shouldn't be too fancy. It wasn't necessary from the perspective of the table, because we felt that all of the uses could be fully accommodated through a humble restoration, and that ought to be the driving focus. We also felt that there should be an opening, a large access out to that south lawn, and that area should be enclosed, made safe, and shaded, and should be able to be incorporated as an indoor-outdoor space for whatever the uses are that are here. We also felt that it was a good idea to create a vestibule or an access point along the outside, because we'd like to be able to bring people into the especially if it's not directly related to a church event, but not have to drive them through the courtyard. That was something we thought made sense. We didn't think that outside rentals was a good idea generally, and shouldn't really be informing the design decisions, because we felt that the primary uses ought to be for church and related organizations, AUNA, ANA, Meridian School, other pan-Armenian organizations, but not really the outside rental as being the driver. We felt that it actually potentially worked contrary to the church's own interest, because they would compete with the church's own programs if successful. And we also felt that it's sort of, we didn't think there should be alcohol allowed and some of the other things that would naturally have to be considered if you wanted to be competitive. And we also thought we were never going to be competing with other banquet halls for like that kind of true banquet hall rental. We just would fail in that, and it's not our core business, and we're a church. We're not a, it didn't make sense as being the driving sort of focus. But we did say that we considered spending dollars in the kitchen because we felt that the kitchen is beyond utilization. And Mary had mentioned that people have been asking, outsiders have been asking about renting the kitchen. And I happen to have a private equity client whose major investment is in ghost kitchens. And the guy, there's a huge demand for sort of kitchen rentals. And that's a sort of a weekday business when no one is really using our campus anyway. So if you want to make, we're thinking if you really want to make money in the rental business, that ought to be probably the place we ought to maybe focus. And our kitchen needs to be renovated anyway. So if you're going to throw $400,000 at something, let's make the kitchen beautiful instead of, the chandeliers dropping or whatever it is, you can do here. That was just our thought. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay, so for table 14, other than just having specifics, I think we heard some really great specific ideas. We were just going through prioritizing things and kind of maybe raising some concerns and some thoughts. For us, the youth programs and the use of the facility for sports is crucial. It's a priority. It's needed. I think that's really what we want the space to be used for primarily. And we've discussed even just having the men's basketball, how that was really a great outreach for people to show up during the middle of the week, to show up to play basketball and kind of get plugged in and get familiar with the church. That's kind of how it's been done in the past, and we really want to be able to have a space for that, to continue that. Also, as far as banquets and conferences, I think between, I think we looked at this both as for members and non-members. Of course, we want to utilize the facility for our own church banquets and our own events and things like that. But our concern was if we're going to open it up to the public or other groups, is there going to be a fee for members or non-members? If we want to have people have an option if they want to do a wedding reception here, what would that look like as far as fees? Would we need additional staffing or additional insurance or security for those things? And we're also considering just a feasibility study and a kind of a cost benefit study for renting it out. How much would we even expect to get? What's the demographic like in the area? Can we compete, we were saying, with other venues and whatnot for the size of the space or what we can hold? So that was just some of our concerns. As far as cultural events and opening it up to the community, we were open to having dances. Again, the question is about dancing and alcohol. We don't frown down upon that, but we were positive to open it up for dances, social events, things like that, and the Armenian community reaching out to other Armenian nonprofits to come and host their events or use the facilities to make partnerships with them. We're remembering hosting concerts for LART, opening it up obviously for Merdinian. As a Merdinian student, I've done tons of plays and Christmas events and things on that stage as a student, just to be able to engage the larger Armenian community and invite them to use the facilities. We were positive about that, but we think we would need a more advantageous sound system to facilitate some of those things. Possibly, it was brought up by one of our members that we used to open up the facilities to the firehouse down the street and invite the firemen to come and play basketball and hang out and to do things during the week, just to be able to engage the community at large, to let them know we're here and we're part of the community as well. After that, as far as outside revenue, again, our concern was just, is the effort and cost worth it? How much more cleaning are we going to have to do? How much more maintenance? Do we need to have dedicated staff to run it? I shared when I was pastor in Detroit for 5 years, we did rent out our hall, but we had an individual person that was in charge of all those things and responsible for all those things as a full-time job, and had to carry insurance and different licensings and things if they were going to use the kitchen. We wanted to make sure that our focus was on Christ and not run it as a business, but really as an extension of the ministry of the church. We feared the tail wagging the dog. If that is, we want the focus to remain on the ministries. We discussed even possibly using the classrooms for preschools and kindergartens, either renting them out. That would kind of be ministry adjacent. It would be an outreach. It would be a feasible way to use the facilities and continue as part of the ministry as well. And as far as courtyard improvements, we didn't have anything specific, but we just didn't want to lose any green space. We didn't want to lose any parking based on any of the expansions. And we were just wondering if the trade-off is worth it, depending on what the plans are for that. So that's our table. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So we're the last, but the scripture says the last shall be first. So it's a joy to be last. I want to open by reading from Matthew 6:33, which enforces what Greg Zeroni had mentioned. It says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." So our focus, first and foremost, should be what is our vision as a church, and the goal is to outreach and to build up the body of Christ. And just keeping that in mind, if we do that, we will continue to grow and flourish. So I'm just going to hand this off to Kevin as he continues.
Thank you, Greg. So we felt the primary focus should be youth functions and church-related activities. So things that people have already mentioned: athletics, missions, VBS, church banquet. The design of the space should not be focused on aesthetics, but rather functionality first. Our focus should not be to compete with other commercial venues because we're just not a hotel or a banquet facility. The priority should be the design of driving what we do at UACC rather than what other organizations might want to use the space for. Yeah.
Just going back to the youth and the functionality of this room, some of the events we've done in the past, the main one right now is Generations United. The athletics, missions, VBS, church banquets, holiday events here, funeral, missionary luncheons, some of the women's groups. And also, the main thing is this room is used the most on Friday nights with the youth. It's also used as far as relating to youth. We have AEYF retreats. We've had lock-ins here over the years. This room is used the most, as I said, on Friday nights. We have worship over there, we have Bible study up there, and then the kids are in here, they're doing volleyball, they're doing basketball, they're playing soccer. And if you're not here on a Friday night, I encourage you to come and see the work that is being done here. The idea of making this into a banquet hall for the purpose of raising funds, I personally don't agree with, because as I read in our first verse, the main supporting money from the church should come from tithing and from donations, I think. And if we're not able to get that as a church from our congregation, we're doing something wrong as a church. We should not be depending on this room to raise the funds to support the function of the church. The idea of also putting basketball nets outside is not practical. You come here on a Friday night, we are inside, it is safe, we're playing basketball in here. If it's raining outside, that's not an option. So if none of you have been here on a Friday night, I encourage you to come. It starts at 7 o'clock, worship with us, sit in on either the adult study or the kids study if you'd like, and play sports with us. This room is used then, it has to be designed to accommodate the youth. And that's the future of this church, and I urge you to just think about that, and that's all I'm going to say right now.
Evan. In terms of opening the hall, we would plan to have it open for weddings and funerals for members, but again, the primary purpose would be not to offset what we're doing with the youth and the church. We also felt that courtyard improvements south of the social hall would be great, as long as it would be secure with a wall for cars driving down on Cahuenga. And it would be a great addition to the classrooms and having open space for kids to continue playing outside.
As far as the other activities, the dancing, the cooking classes, that's all great. Just keep in mind that this room needs to be geared for those types of things and to build up the church and build up the body. And that's it. So.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to just wrap up here in a few minutes. Really fantastic contributions from every table today, so let's give everybody a round of applause. So, lots of emphasis on youth. We heard from all the tables. I think that's a pretty consistent message we heard today. A lot about cultural events, cooking, dance classes. I think that's fantastic. Really good input today. We heard good input for the courtyard, for sort of the structural improvements to the fellowship hall. These were all fantastic comments. The congregation should be applauded, and you're obviously very committed to the future of the church and the hall. So what happens next is we, MIG, will take all these graphics back, and I want to give a special shout out to CJ for doing the recording, and Fernanda for helping with the setup and the teardown and the breakdown and the photography. So we will take all this paper away, the wall graphic, the flip charts, the notebook paper, and we're going to prepare a multi-page summary report of what we heard today. We'll try to categorize it into themes. We need to sort of absorb this and synthesize it, but we'll come back, report to the church with again, a summary report of everything we've heard today for your review at some point in the near future. And with that, Ron?
So I'm going to wrap up real quickly. A very wise person once said, you're wondering who that wise person was, aren't you? It was me. A very wise person once said, put 4 Armenians in a room, you get 8 opinions. I think that's a good thing today. We got a lot of opinions, a lot of great feedback, some of it consistent with one another, some of it in conflict with one another, but it lets us know where we are as a body in Christ here, and it's most appreciated that you took the time to give your Sunday afternoon to participate in the future of the church. I want to thank 2 parties. First, I want to thank MIG for facilitating this. It's much appreciated. Driving up from San Diego to do this, and actually driving back last night to San Diego and then back up this morning. Much appreciated. Thank you. And I think a special appreciation to Vart, who sponsored this lunch today. So we'll close with a word of prayer and look forward to the results that come out of this.